The mountain god of Karara is an Indian story. Once upon a time, there was a small village called Karara in the south of India. The village was surrounded by magnificent mountains and rich in nature. However, there was a presence in these mountains that the villagers feared and respected. It was a god called the mountain god of Karara. The mountain god of Karara lived on the top of a huge and majestic mountain. His power was enormous, and he was always on the lookout to protect the mountain. The mountain god was a god who protected the flora and fauna of the mountains and the people of the village, and gave the blessings of nature when needed, but he never used his power in vain. One year, a major crisis came to the village of Karara. The vicinity of the village has been suffering from years of drought, causing the river to dry up, the fields to crack, and crops to no longer grow. The villagers didn't know what to do, so they had to keep praying every day. The water supply was cut off, food was exhausted, and the village was enveloped in a dead silence. Among the villagers, the youngest daughter, Aliyah, thought that she would somehow ask the mountain god for help. Aliyah grew up in a kind-hearted and nature-oriented village, spending every day at the foot of the mountain with flora and fauna. She thought that if the mountain god really helped the village, she would somehow awaken its power. Aliyah decided to climb the mountain alone, left home early in the morning, and aimed for the top of the mountain. As she made her way through the steep mountain road, she was caught in her foot and never gave up even though she fell many times. As she continued to climb the mountain, Arya felt the breath of the mountain and was convinced that it was full of divine power. Eventually, when they reached the top of the mountain, there was a temple-like place in front of a huge rock. There Aliyah bowed deeply and prayed to the mountain god with all her heart. "Great mountain god, please give us rain and end the drought. Please help us protect our lives." When Aliyah's voice echoed through the mountains, there was silence for a while. Then, a low voice sounded from the mountains. It was the voice of the mountain god. "Your wish is sincere, but I don't just give you power. When people come together, respect nature, and live with integrity, I lend my strength. If you can convey that teaching to the villagers, I will grant your request." Aliyah deeply understood the mountain god's words and decided to return to the village. "I realize that in order to borrow the power of the mountain god, it is necessary not only to pray, but also to have a heart that the whole village needs to come together to harmonize with nature and share the blessings." Aliyah returned to the village and conveyed the mountain god's words to the villagers. The villagers couldn't believe the story at first, but they were moved by Aliyah's passion and sincerity, and little by little they began to change their minds. They began to respect the mountains and live a life of valuing nature, and began to avoid the use of wasted water, protect the soil, and protect flora and fauna. The mountain god, who had been watching the changes in the villagers, finally felt that it was time to show his power. One night, under the full moon, the mountain god released his power with a loud thunderclap. A strong wind blew from the mountains, clouds gathered, and finally it started to rain. The pouring rain filled the rivers, moistened the fields, and breathed life into the dry land. The villagers were amazed by the miracle, thanked the mountain god for his power, and vowed to continue to cherish nature in the future. Aliyah was deeply grateful to the mountain god and continued to teach the villagers to be in harmony with nature. The village flourished again, crops grew, and abundant water sources returned. And Aliyah said, "The teachings of the mountain god are not just about protecting nature, but the important thing is that we help each other and live with one heart. If you can do that, you can overcome any difficulty." The village of Karara then prospered for a long time with the mountain gods, and the villagers lived happily ever after, cherishing harmony with nature. That's it.